how to use his phone to look stuff up. And the reason I'm having to teach him at 12 years old is because he has an idiot for a PE teacher. So back to what Lily was stating, he thinks because he has asthma, then if he can handle it, so can the kids, right? And so I am empowering him by, okay, I said, what do you think? It was like a lesson. What do you think is going to be bad? PM 2.5 or PM 10? We're having our own little quiz on our day off because it's going to take him to teach his teachers. So besides wanting to see, like Genevieve just said, an all-encompassing, comprehensive, one-stop place that we can look at everything in a clear form that's not just educating community, but the bigger picture of all this information has to start with the schools and the administrative and the districts. Jessica Olson and I was at the beginning of last week, we were like having a mommy frustration phone call because it was so upsetting, her own story, my story, and two parents just trying to make sure they're sending their children off in a safe environment. And right now, like Lilia was saying, we're getting all this data, but we're still seeing the schools letting the kids go out for PE. And I don't know. So my first thoughts is the disconnect between our Fresno County Public Health Department. Do we need to bring them together with our school board? Because it doesn't seem that talking individually to principals is the answer. So it really needs to go back to that same subcommittee that we had for our air filtration board members, bring that back in. Like, we know you thought we were only here to talk to you about filtration monitors, but this ties directly into the other part, not just the maintenance and the physical side of your schools, but the actual administrative side of, and I know we have the Healthy Air Schools program, right? So there's still this disconnect in education and priority of health that the schools are missing. And so all of us on this call, it's like, okay, how do we uplift it? And I don't know if it can be done with, do we have to have, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to have the public health department involved, even though of course COVID has taken over everything. It's like, this is right in line with the, the impacts and who can get through COVID better or worse. So I would suggest, like, if that can be something that's part of this data monitoring process, because now that we're seeing the data, what are we doing about it? And I don't see us being able to get it done without those two entities of the school board, the schools, and the health department involved, because I don't think that the schools are listening to the air district strong enough. And it's like, well, if we all come together and try to teach you something, maybe you'll kind of get a clue. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, I agree, Ivanka, 100%. We get very frustrated with, we were frustrated too last week. As a matter of fact, Ryan, who's not on this call, ended up calling the Fresno County Office of Ed to talk about charter schools in particular. So we got to get the schools on board. And I mean,
well, I have so many things to say, but let's start, what can we do right away? I kept on asking, I'm sorry, but I have not received a response, Jamie, and I would like a specific strategy. Have the schools where these monitors are located receive information about, this is a monitor and this is where you go and get the information? And if not, when is that going to happen? I mean, it's like the lowest hanging fruit. Do it within the school communities of where the monitors are. I will start there.
Okay.
Then at the same time, I agree with, we have to bring, and I'm happy to go and do lead a group of people at one of the Fresno Unified School Districts and Clovis Unified and all the schools, because I have already told about this, and it just happened a week ago when was it? I don't know, but when the air quality was really, really bad, not this Friday, but the previous Friday, the mother of one of the members of our youth group, she's very concerned about her kids because they have asthma. She actually called your office, the air district. they transferred her to 15 people who never responded a phone call. Finally, the receptionist said, oh, let me tell you where to go. And she's like, I am in your website. I'm seeing that the air quality is bad. What I'm trying to figure out is, when is your office going to call the school district to let them know that my kids shouldn't be out? Because the school principal said that they would not do it until the school district tells you, and then the school district doesn't do it until you guys tell them. So there's a completely broken system of communication right there. The school day ended, and one more time, the kids were out, because by the time that the school district tried to do something, it was too late. I mean, at the end of the day, they end up pushing back schools like I know in my daughter's high school, there was the game, and they push it like an hour later, which to me was not enough. But that's the problem, it's like, why aren't the dots being connected in the way that the schools know about it, but then they act on it? Because otherwise it's very fruitless. And I think we're sitting on a gold mine of information that the principals right away could be acting on. And just as they are acting on RAND, which the closest regulatory monitor might be 20 miles away, when maybe they have a monitor in their roof. So why act on RAND when they have their own monitor or a closer monitor? So I think that, definitely we need to figure out a strategy on how to improve that communication with the schools, and that the schools take action on that. I kind of was a little bit hesitant with Ivanka's comment about the health department, just because with the whole COVID experience, the more bureaucracies that you get involved, the more difficult it's going to be. And the health department is a bureaucracy in itself. However, I think at some point we will need to bring the health officer on board and talk to us, because I find appalling and literally criminal almost that they allowed events like what happened with the California Classic, the bike ride, and the half marathon happening in an air quality day when I was not outside, and I still end up with a lot of symptoms like sore throat, chest pain, and so on. I don't imagine what happened with the people that were out there running. So I think those events shouldn't even be allowed in such days. And I know I read your article, the article where you were quoted, that you tried to contact the race people. You don't have the authority to have that event canceled, but the health department, I guess they might have some leverage, right? So at some point we need to bring them on board. But I would say that's kind of step 10. To me, the step 1 is inform the schools, 2, make a connection so that the information is being communicated with the schools, not only with the school districts, and 3, that really I don't understand why it's so difficult about the text alerts. I think I would all encourage you all to check SGB Air. There you can select the monitor for which you want to receive notifications and at what level. If I have a child with asthma, I want a level 3, but if I'm healthy, I might wait until it's a level 4. So something like that, I think is if a nonprofit like the Asthma Collaborative that doesn't have all the resources that the Air District has was able to pull it off, I think it shouldn't be that difficult.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you said. I mean, one of the things that I am curious to know as well, so I'll throw out there, is I would like for us to do a little audit, us meaning my team, to know what the schools in the AB 617 community are doing. We have 5 different school districts down there. So maybe we do that and bring that information back, because some of the schools should be following.
What if we do a secret shopper? Because if you call the school, your staff, I'm calling from the Air District, they're going to tell you exactly what you want to hear. But if we do a secret shopper where we all volunteer, the parents that are here, we volunteer and call and say, hey, their quality is bad, what are you doing? We're going to really find out what's really happening.
That would be great.
What was interesting when you said, Naimeen, like as far as just starting with the schools that have the monitors, not just that conversation, but simply the call that you're just talking about. I called in, I said, what is your rainy day protocol for bad air days? Because we all know schools have a rainy day schedule that keep the kids in. So you can keep them in on the greenest day we're ever going to have, called a rainy day, when they should be outside playing, right? They'll keep them in. So most schools have a rainy day schedule. And I called and said, are you mimicking the rainy day schedule for a bad air day schedule, as a bad air day schedule? Oh no, kids that have asthma, they should know to stay inside. That's the response for my kids' charter school. So this, like when you were talking about Ryan calling the Office of Ed, but if that could be a next step of starting with the schools that have the monitors, and if it means it, I mean, we should be able to do this broadly, but if it just means starting with the schools that have the monitors, educating those schools to create that protocol, that rainy day schedule protocol based on a color code system, that could be a start, like you're saying, just the low hanging fruit.
I'm taking notes. So I've got just some of my notes so far, just to do a little check back. I've got several things, but I'm going to list them all. First of all, a better link front and center on the AB 617 page that says, you know, check current air quality, maybe using a widget that shows the little map, so it's easier to get there. More work with schools and potentially public health, and then a kind of a 3-step process. One, and we can do both if the folks who are on the call, or if you have folks, if you can call the school that your kids go to and just let us know kind of how they handle it. And you can just send me an email, Heather an email, any of us an email. It doesn't need to be formal. And we'll maybe craft a little email to the entire committee and ask them if maybe they can check any schools that they have a relationship with. Then kind of gather some of that information, maybe do some of our own information. Then start by really focusing on those schools, first of all, that have monitors on them, and then also schools in the AB 617 community, because they're all kind of near a monitor, and focus on educating them about how they can potentially use the air quality information and put a policy into place if they don't already have one. And then the last thing is, you know, look at, and I just pulled it up, the SJVR. I didn't even realize that there were notifications on there now, and the notification system to see how we can improve that through this text message service that we're looking at. I saw someone raise their, Estella, I saw you raise your hand.
Sí.
¿Tenías un comentario, Estela?
Sí, lo que iba a decir es que aquí en la escuela de mis hijos, sí, la directora sí nos avisa cuando el aire está sucio y que no salgan los niños. Eso sí nos avisa ella.
Yeah, Estella says that in her school where her children attend, the principal does alert her when there's bad air quality, and they do keep the kids inside. Estela, I'm asking her what school.
That's what I was gonna ask.
¿En qué escuela van sus hijos?
Leavenworth.
Ann Leavenworth.
Gracias, Estela.
Awesome. We, Brian and I were in the chat back and forth. I wanted this conversation to continue, as did Brian. So we moved the CARB presentation. We can even bump it off of this meeting. We do have a hard stop at 5. So depending on what the committee wants to do, we can chat a little bit more about outreach, or we can ask CARB to do a short kind of, 5-minute version of their presentation. It's really up to you all.
How long it takes CARB's presentation?
Oh, I can let, Emily, yeah, go ahead. Oh yeah, I was just gonna say about 10 minutes, but I can definitely shorten it. There's just a few things that you guys had mentioned during the meeting today that really perked up my ears because we've been working on tools that sounds like would help with some of the things. So if you want, I could share a few slides, or I would be happy to, I'm happy if you guys want to keep discussing this. It's a really important topic.
My 2 cents would be maybe a 5-minute presentation and then definitely schedule a second subcommittee meeting because I think we could talk about outreach for a whole meeting.
I think Lisa is unmuted, but do you want to say anything, Lisa?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm unmuted. I didn't know. I'm sorry, I was in the middle of something else at the moment. What are you guys on? Public outreach, you can do 2 hours on that. You can do a plan. I would love to see a public outreach plan from the Air District. Because even listening to what I've heard, and excuse me guys for being so late, but Jamie, you should have already did an assessment of every single school in the 617 area to know how they communicate and what sort of information styles they already have versus the committee members actually doing that. It's kind of your job, but I would like to see a plan pulled together so you guys can review it. Of course, with some timeline and if there's any money that needs to be expended to it as well. Because I also was listening into comments of, tear the system down and rebuild it up. Well, how much would that cost and what is the timeline that you're looking at, your computer people to do from start to finish? Because I would really like to know that. Whether it's you're going to have coders, where you're going to have designers, what sort of computer guys are you going to have rework the system and make it more palatable and easy for people to look at things. So I need a plan because I think that would help a lot of people really fast and get this down and done quickly. That's my thoughts. Now I'm going to mute myself.
Thanks, Lisa. You echo some of what Naimeen said right at the beginning of the meeting as well. All right.
So let's do that 5 minute. We don't want to be disrespectful. If you guys want us to wait and give you a decent amount of time at the next meeting, we can also do that, Emily and Brian.
Oh, I mean, I'm up for whatever is helpful to the CSC. So yeah, I think Emily can modify her slides. It's totally up to the group. Yeah.
Well, let's do it.
Okay. I'll go ahead and share my screen then. So are you able to see the presentation?
We can see your screen.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
there it is. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Let's see if that helps my internet. Okay. So so my name is Emily Gorey. As I mentioned, I'm here from CARB to show you some things that we're doing in AQView. So in case you're not familiar with AQView, just really quick overview, our primary immediate goal is to really provide access to the community data. And so hearing you guys talk about bringing all of the data into one space, and there's all these different data sets that are scattered around the internet. That is one of our primary goals in AQView, is to bring all of those data sets together into one place so that you can have a really dependable source for all of the data that's out there. Because you're absolutely right, it really has blown up over the past few years. And so we think that access to that data is incredibly important, and we're building AQView out to have that. We want to make it a flexible system so that community organizations can submit data easily. We can get data from the regulatory network, and we can get data from like those other air sensor networks that are out there. And we'll keep adding data sets over time so that you have a full picture. So on the right half of this slide is kind of a status of where we're at with building AQView. We have, right now, since our primary focus is to bring in the AB 617 community data, so that's the data such as what you're collecting in Fresno. But we also have some data from some air grantees in there as well at this point, and we're hoping to bring more online soon. We have data download capability right now, so we have a download tool that you can use to access your data and the other data as well. One of the most important things in our mind, on top of just having access to the data, is having it be dependable. And so we think that providing data quality information alongside the data itself can also provide extra context. So as you work with the data, you can, if you're one of the people who likes to dig into the data, you can have additional context on the data quality itself, and have additional confidence as well when you go to use the data. So this is a somewhat unique feature that we want to have in AQView. You know, the other sites that are out there right now, they don't really have too much quality control on the data. They just kind of, you know, provide data, and that's that. We want to provide historic data access so that you never get cut off from the data. You have access to the most current data as well as the older information. And then the next things we're working on that have been that are in progress right now are our map and graphing capabilities. And then we're also going to include some data analysis and summaries of the community data. So this is getting back to one of the comments. I heard a request for data that is not, you know, on the internet. This is something that would be printable. You would be able to walk away with it and kind of get a glimpse into the data and what's going on in the community in terms of air quality. And that's something we would also love to work with you on to get exactly what you're looking for in there. Next slide is just a screenshot of our data download tool. So I had originally planned to walk through this today, but we did try and keep it really simple so that it is easy to use and get the data that you're looking for. The first step is just to select a primary filter. So you can see you would select like a county or a community or a data provider that you're interested in. For this example, I have Fresno. Once you select a primary filter, then you'll see the pollutants that are available in that community. At this point, we just have the PM 2.5 data, but we've been working closely with Chai and Brad at the San Joaquin Valley District to get the other data in there as well. So soon you'll be able to see the other pollutants like the nitrogen dioxide and carbon monoxide and other things as well. And then you can select a date range that you're interested in, so you'll be able to access the most recent and the historic data as well. And then you'll see the amount of data that you're downloading over here. It shows you the number of data points that are going to be in your download file. And I think that's about 5 minutes where I'm at now. But if you don't mind, I'll just skip ahead. So really our next steps, is it all right if I just wrap up in like 1 minute?
Sounds great, Emma.
Okay, sounds great. So our next steps, right now we're working on migrating our current, like the AQView system to a cloud platform. So we're going to be migrating to AWS cloud, and that will give us a lot more flexibility to bring in all those data sets and make everything super responsive for you if you are using the online tools we have planned, like the map. Another next step, we're also working on building those visualization tools, and we'll, as an ongoing process, we'll be adding more and more data from more and more sources. And then finally, once again, just to mention it, we will be building out those community-specific data analysis and summaries. So this would be like a document that you could walk away with or print and walk away with. So that's just my presentation in a nutshell. Please feel free to contact us to talk to us more. We're really responsive to our email address that's listed here, and please feel free to visit our website as well at aqview.arb.ca.gov. So I know I spoke really fast, but I would love to take any questions if you have them.
I have a question. You know, I think that right now with all this data that is available, I don't know about others, but I feel data overload. I just feel like there's so much data that it kind of makes me dizzy sometimes. So what I would like to know, at least personally, is I think that, you know, the historical data and doing analysis and all that is good, is cool. But I personally would like to have, like, you know, like the text. I'm subscribed to RAN, I'm subscribed to the SGBR, everything that I can get, so I don't have to be fishing out for information, so I can make informed decisions about my own personal activity and for my family and other community members that I am concerned of, like farm workers. So with that in mind, is this at some point in time going to have that kind of text alert system that we were discussing that we would like to see for the AB 617 Fresno monitors?
Yeah, that's absolutely something that we have at the forefront of our minds. Like, we ran into the same issues, I think, as probably the district is having, where it does actually require a lot of security, like because phone numbers and things are personal information. So we ended up having to push that back a little bit, but it's something that we really do want to include because we've heard a lot of asks for that type of notification system that's customizable. We'll give you alerts based on whatever air quality level you are interested in being alerted at and whichever pollutants you're interested in, that kind of thing. But that is, at this point, unfortunately, further down the line. And then as far as like data overload too, like we totally understand that most people will not have the time or energy or want to go to a download tool and download the data themselves. So we're really hoping to be able to summarize that in some way with, you know, just like a 1 or 2 page information with a lot of visuals on it and just couple bullet points to help summarize the data. And then of course in the future when we have our map as well, that will help simplify the data, hopefully reduce the data overload feeling, because there's a lot out there, definitely.
All right, thank you, Emily, for the overview and update. Really appreciate all the work that you guys are doing on that as well.
Thank you. I'm glad I was able to share the presentation today.
And so I think this concludes our meeting for today. And thank you all for your great feedback. Jamie has all of those noted down, and so we'll take a look at that and look for a potential next meeting to continue further discuss this, the topics that we discussed today onto it. So thank you so much and good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Hasta mañana.
Gracias.
Gracias. Buenas
Buenas
noches.
noches.
Gracias,
They're
gracias.
leaving. Yeah. Hold on.